The mistake that I made for years that kept me stuck financially, physically, in my friendships, in my relationships, was confusing familiarity for safety. And in my quest for safety and security, which, like it or not, fortunately or unfortunately, are some of my deepest, most ingrained values that I base a lot of my decisions on, in my quest for safety and certainty, I would stay stuck in the familiar because what felt familiar felt safe to my nervous system. And I see a lot of other people stuck in this same pattern where they're doing things that feel safe to them, even when they are things that don't feel comfortable. So a lot of people talk about getting uncomfortable in the fitness space and the personal development space. You'll hear that a lot. Like, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to do things that are uncomfortable. And personally, in my coaching and with myself in recent years, I've come to think a lot more about the concept of familiarity and unfamiliarity. Because with discomfort, a lot of things are uncomfortable, and yet we will still put ourselves through them. And similarly, something being uncomfortable does not make it always beneficial. This is where we see old cliches like no pain, no gain. It's uncomfortable, so it's good for you. It's painful, so you get something out of it. And while that can be the case, often you do things that are challenging and we get a benefit from them. Something being painful or uncomfortable does not necessarily mean that we actually will get a benefit out of it. An example could be someone who stays in a relationship that they're not quite happy with. They stay with a partner who disappoints them in the same way over and over again. They stay stuck in a pattern that, even though they've seen it play out over and over and it never leads to a place that they desire, they stay in that place. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Is it beneficial? No. So why do they stay in it? Because it's familiar. And your brain and your subconscious and your body will always choose a familiar pain over an unfamiliar uncertainty. Because to your brain, familiarity, as I said, feels like safety and it feels like certainty. If you go back 10,000, 100,000 years, however many years in our evolution, to your great, 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 great grandfather and grandmother who lived in the cave, and they were hunters and gatherers, and they wore loincloths, and there was cave writing. I'm going back way, way, way back. In that realm, familiarity is safety. Familiarity is the cave. Inside the cave, I know what's what. Nothing is going to surprise me. Nothing is jumping out. There's safety around. I have walls protecting me. Outside of the cave is the unfamiliar. Outside of the cave, there's lions, there's tigers, there's snakes, there's poison berries, and things that can hurt me. So inside of the cave is safe. And inside of the cave is what I know. Outside of the cave is everything that I don't know, and it feels very dangerous to my brain and my body. And yet the paradox that you might see is that if we stay inside of the cave where it's safe, eventually we will starve. We have to leave the cave to get food, to get water, to do the things that allow us to live. Now fast forward 1,000 or so years, and you are sitting on your couch watching TV, wanting to feel better physically or mentally, wanting to work on that business idea that you've had in the back of your head for months, if not years. The familiarity in this case is the couch. It is watching Netflix. It is scrolling on your phone. That, although it gets you no closer to the result that you want, feels safe. It feels good. It feels comforting. And getting up and doing something challenging, like making a social media post, or getting a book from the library and reading about how to start a business, or signing up for a class at your local community college, or knocking on your neighbor's door and say, hey, I'm selling lawn services, or whatever a million other things that you could do, feels like the equivalent of your ancient ancestors leaving the cave and going and risking their lives with lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So getting up off of the couch stopping to scroll in order to go do something challenging or hard is uncomfortable, but it's also unfamiliar. So sometimes there's an overlap between being uncomfortable and being unfamiliar, but there's other times where, again, I want to be unfamiliar rather than uncomfortable. So using exercise is an analogy that I've talked to you many times about in the past. Imagine you're exercising, you're working out, you're going for a run. When you go for a run for the first time, you haven't run in years and you go and you run a mile. It's hard, it's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable. But say you commit to running a mile 3 times a week, every week for the next year. At the end of that, running a mile still might be uncomfortable. Your knees might hurt, your ankles might hurt. It will definitely be easier than it was when you first started, but there's still a level of discomfort that comes along with it. You still have to get yourself up off the couch. When sitting on the couch, like I said, is easier, it's familiar, it's safe. But that thing that was once unfamiliar then quickly becomes familiar. You doing that workout, that run, whatever it is, it becomes familiar the more you do it. And as you do it and become more familiar with it, the amount you get out of it becomes less and less. So the amount of calories you burn, the amount of benefit to your lungs, to your heart, to your blood, to your muscles that you got on day 1 of running a mile versus day 365 of running a mile are completely different. Your body adapts over time and it becomes more efficient and it becomes better at running, which from an evolutionary standpoint is great. But from a standpoint of wanting to lose weight maybe, or wanting to just get more healthy, you're actually getting less out of the same amount because you're doing what's familiar. And this is why people who do the same exercise for too long start to see diminishing returns because your body adapts. But the answer to this is not simply to get more uncomfortable. You might think, I just got to feel the burn more. But it's more about getting unfamiliar, doing things that you haven't done before. That might mean running farther, 1.5 miles instead of a mile. That might mean running faster, trying to run the same mile in 9.5 minutes instead of 10. That might mean running with a weight on your back, or that might mean swimming instead of running sometimes. It's about doing something different, similar, but different. I first thought about this when I was training a client and he was stretching and I was telling him, lean into the stretch. We've done this in the past. We've done this a few weeks ago. So just lean into that stretch. And he went, oh yeah, I got it. I got this stretch. And it was like a light bulb went off for me because I said, okay, you got the stretch that you're familiar with. Now I need you to lean into it more to where you're unfamiliar. He was, every time we were stretching, getting to the same point, a point of discomfort. It was hard. It was a stretch. It was uncomfortable for him, but it was a familiar stretch. It was a familiar discomfort. And because he was always stretching to that same point, a point of discomfort but familiarity, he felt safe there. And his brain told him to stop. He said, this is good enough. So I said, now go a little bit deeper. Go to 100% and then 5% more. I need you to go a little bit beyond what you're consciously or unconsciously used to. And that's when he unlocked a new level of stretch in that muscle, a new range of motion. And over time, we rinse and repeat. Now that becomes familiar after repeated process, and then we get unfamiliar again. But that is how you continue to make progress, by continually pushing the limits of what you're familiar with and then pushing into the unfamiliar. When you allow yourself to stop at what's familiar, regardless of how comfortable or uncomfortable it is, what you're telling your brain is that I'm good here. I am fully equipped with what I have to handle everything that comes my way. And that might sound good, but what that's telling your brain is that you don't need to get any better. If I'm able to do all of the puzzles, then I don't need to get smarter. If I'm able to lift the weight, then I don't need to get stronger. If I'm able to run, then I don't need to get faster. It is only by putting yourself in situations that you are unequipped to handle, that are challenging and unfamiliar, that you give yourself a reason to improve, whether it is with your body, your brain, your heart, or anything else. For years, when I was single, I stayed stuck in this pattern of starting some pseudo relationship, or a situationship as the kids might call them these days, where I would talk to a girl and we would go on some dates, but it would never really go anywhere because I was afraid for it to go any further. I was afraid to get deeper with any one person, and I was afraid to let myself get hurt. I was stuck in the familiarity of what a shallow relationship felt like. Even though it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to keep going on first dates. It was uncomfortable to keep starting over. It was uncomfortable to always find myself alone at the end of all of it. But the familiarity felt safer to me than putting myself out there and allowing myself to be stretched in a way that was new to me. And it wasn't until I met my current fiance that I decided that I wanted to see what else I could do. I wanted to explore being in a real relationship and allowing myself to potentially, yes, be hurt, to potentially, yes, get in deep with someone and get intertwined in a way that could backfire on me, because I wanted the growth that came with it, both personally on my own and in a relationship with her. And only thanks to that, allowing myself to be open to going into what was once unfamiliar, am I now happily engaged, soon to be married. So this stuff is not just about fitness. This is not just about personal growth or knowledge or getting smarter. It affects you in every area. You need to be willing to see where you're limiting yourself, see where you're stopping because you feel familiar and safe, and see, would it be worth it to push a little bit past this? So my action step for you this week is to get unfamiliar. In whatever area of your life you're looking to improve, or maybe feeling a little stagnant, a little stuck, a little like a pattern is playing out, see what is that familiar pattern, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, whether it's hard or easy. Just look for patterns that have been playing out for short or even long periods of time. And then ask yourself, what would this look like for me to get unfamiliar? What would me stretching in this scenario look like? What would it look like for me to get deeper? And if you can do that, you'll start to see new areas of growth and potentially happiness unlock for you. And if you're excited about getting unfamiliar and you want to go a step further, check out my episode titled, Why is Change So Hard? Learn the rules, win the game. I've linked to it in the show notes, and it's a great companion episode to build off of this one. Before you go, I just have to ask you for a huge favor. If you enjoyed or got value from this episode at all, then take a moment and leave a rating and review in the podcast app that you're listening or watching on. If you like the show and you want me to continue to create more episodes and be able to get awesome guests that will help make changing your life easier, then this is the best way you can show support. You can leave a 5-star review on iTunes like Eliza K, who said, "This podcast is both warm and inviting, but real enough to push and motivate me." Thank you, Eliza. Or you can be like Dalton, who said, "Paul is an amazing host and his podcast is a must listen." Thank you, Dalton. And thank you to all of the over 100 people who have taken the time to rate and review this show 5 stars on iTunes, or the dozens who have left 5-star reviews on Spotify. It only takes a minute, and it helps me grow, it helps me reach a new audience, and it lets me know that this is helping someone, which just feels good. All you have to do is go to the show page of whatever app you're listening to and hit the little 5 stars. Or go to the comments section on YouTube and boom, that's it. And if you really want to show love, take a screenshot when you do it and tag me in your stories on social media at Change Made Easy, and I'll shout you out in an upcoming episode. All right, go leave that rating, and I'll see you back here every Tuesday and Thursday with new episodes of Change Made Easy.